First of all, it resulted in the birth of a nation. There's hardly any instance in the history of warfare that shows us this. At the end of the war, we had 93,000 prisoners of war. Ever since the surrender in Stalingrad, we never had so many prisoners of war. However, sadly, after Shimla Agreement, when we repatriated these prisoners of war, there was nothing worthwhile that we got in return. Just in today's Times of India, there's a mention of the 1971 batch of the Officers Training School who had passed out, and they went to the National War Memorial in Delhi to celebrate this day. And it is reported that one of the officers, they lost 7 officers. Out of that, Second Lieutenant Sabarwal, who was reported as missing, is now reported to be in the prison of Pakistan. And there are many prisoners like this who are languishing in the Pakistani jails, which Pakistanis don't even acknowledge. The other factor why it was unique was it was a public surrender. In the history, we never had a public surrender. We are talking about theatre commands these days to ensure that there is jointness among the services in operations and otherwise. But here was a unique occasion where we had a clear-cut jointmanship by the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, which resulted into a massive victory. And it shattered the myth that the defense of East Pakistan lies in the West. During December 71, I was a cadet at the National Defense Academy, and I was just completing my first term, that is the first 6 months of training. We were told that there's a likelihood that Pune and its airfield will be targeted, and therefore we had to be prepared for this. So we had to be prepared against air raids, and for that we had to dig trenches in front of our living accommodation, and we had to practice these drills for the air raids. We also had to do something known as blackout. Of course, I can see a number of veterans and number of people who are above 50 who probably would know about it, but not many people know what is blackout. Basically, you're taking an action to ensure that there is no light which escapes from your house or whatever building you're staying in, so that the enemy aircraft cannot identify the location of that city. And I remember instance, we had the passing out parade rehearsals because it was a time of passing out. And we had 1,400 cadets at the drill square who were rehearsing for the passing out parade. And during the rehearsals, the air raid siren was sounded. And everybody then just moved off from there, ran away to their squadrons, and took shelter in their trenches which they had dug. And after that, for the whole day, the academy adjutant, that is a senior officer who commands the parade, never got the cadets back. So that was my experience, first-hand experience of 1971 war. And do you know that there's a place in Pune called the Salunke Vihar? Why is it called Salunke Vihar? It's become a landmark now. In 1971, Sipahi Pandurang Salunke of 15 Maratha Ilai got a Mahavir Chakra in the Amritsar sector while he attacked a rocket launcher of the enemy which was stopping the advance of our infantry and the armor. So he got a Mahavir Chakra, and that's why this place is known as Salunke Vihar. Now let's see why all this started. The seeds of this conflict were sown in 1947 when India and Pakistan partitioned. Pakistan had two wings at that time, East Pakistan and West Pakistan, separated by a distance of 1,600 kilometers. West Pakistan had the Punjabis, Baluchis, Sindhis, the Pathans, who had a different culture, of course dominated by the Punjabis, whereas East Pakistan mainly had only Bengalis, and the culture was totally diverse. And this gap of 1,600 kilometers did not help in the integration. Then the national language was declared as Urdu. East Pakistanis only spoke Bengali, and therefore there were major protests because of this. And after a lot of bloodshed, finally Bengali was recognized as the national language also. In 1963 December, the relic of Prophet Muhammad was stolen from the Hazrat Bal shrine, which you all know is close to Srinagar. When this happened, the president of Pakistan, Ayub Khan, he was in Dhaka that time, and he warned. He said, if something happens here in East Pakistan, I won't be responsible. It is India's fault. Sure enough, in January 64, there were massive riots in East Pakistan in which mainly the Hindu Bengalis were butchered, and the people who were actually targeted were basically the intelligent people, the people working in the university, who were doctors, who were engineers, and such like people were targeted. In 1969, the situation in Pakistan was bad. Economic situation was bad, the social situation was bad, and therefore there were major protests both in West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And Ayub Khan could not handle them. So therefore he decided to hand over the situation to General Yahya Khan, who became the chief martial law administrator, and he took charge. Soon after taking over, he said there'll be general elections. And when the results came, the Awami League won majority of the seats in their legislative assembly. In the National Assembly, again, the Awami League got the majority, almost near absolute majority. And therefore, logically, they should have been the ruling party and the Prime Minister should have been from their party. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had advocated 6 points, which basically said that there should be more autonomy for East Pakistan and they should be able to govern themselves. This was something which was not liked by the West Pakistanis because they thought that probably it might lead into drafting of a different constitution and they'll be at a loss. So they did not accept this. Now, to resolve this crisis, Admiral Ehsan was appointed to give out his recommendations. And he did a good job and gave out his recommendations. However, the military top brass never accepted this. And they were supported by Mr. Bhutto, who was the leader of West Pakistan, who had secured the number 2 seats after Mujibur Rahman in the National Assembly. So therefore, they did not give this premiership to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And in March 1971, in East Pakistan, 300 Bihari Muslims were massacred. East Pakistan had mainly Bengali Muslims, but there were also the sprinkling of Bihari Muslims, who were actually supporters of West Pakistan. So they were butchered in East Pakistan by the Bengalis. And this gave an excuse to Yahya Khan to push army into East Pakistan and to teach them a lesson. So on 25th of March, General Tika Khan, who is also known as the Butcher of Bengal, was sent to East Pakistan to carry out his task. Soon, Mujibur Rahman was arrested, sent to West Pakistan, and meanwhile, on 26th of March, Major Ziaur, he declared the independence of Bangladesh, and a government in exile was formed. Also, Mukti Bahini, as you are aware, all of you have heard this name. It was a guerrilla force which was created with the help of India. They had 2 components: a regular force and a guerrilla force, Niyomito Bahani and Oniyomito Bahani. So that was what was formed under Colonel Usmani. Meanwhile, almost every day, 60,000 refugees started streaming into India. That is the neighboring states of Assam, West Bengal, Tripura, Mizoram, and all these border states bordering East Pakistan were flooded with refugees. And ultimately, this number came to 10 millions. India appealed to all the major international countries, but all these appeals fell on deaf ears. On 27th of March, Mrs. Gandhi expressed her support for the independence struggle. And in April 71, there was a cabinet meeting. And this was a very interesting cabinet meeting. And a lot of books have given an account of what happened during this meeting. And I, in person, have heard Field Marshal Manik Shaw giving an account of exactly what happened. So this meeting started with Mrs. Gandhi, the Prime Minister, reading out certain telegrams which had come from the chief ministers of the bordering states. And all of them had given out the situation which was created by the refugees coming into and how social and economic problems were being created. So after she read out this, she asked General Manik Shaw, "What are you doing about it?" So he said, "Nothing. I've got nothing to do with it. What do you expect me to do?" So then the Prime Minister told him, "You should march into Pakistan, that is the East Pakistan." So he replied, "Well, I am not prepared. Are you prepared?" He said, "This is the month of April. Soon, in the next 15 days, the monsoons are going to start in East Pakistan. This area is going to be flooded. All the rivers will be flooded. So my strike force will be restricted to moving only on the roads. I will not get any air support because of the weather situation. The international community is also not aware of this fact. So there is nobody who's going to support you. So therefore, and to top it all, my armored regiments, which are so far off, had to be brought by road to these places. I'll require all the vehicles. I require the entire road space. And this is this is a cropping season. So therefore, you will have a major agricultural problem." So he looked at Mr. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, who was the agriculture minister. He said, "You will have to answer for all that." And then he said, "My tanks, out of 197, only 15 are on road." So at this time, Mr. Yashwantrao Chauhan, who was present, who was the finance minister. So he said, "Why so?" So he said, "So that is because you are the finance minister. You didn't give me funds when I had asked for them, and that is the reason." And then he went on to again tell the Prime Minister as to what were the problems because of which he could not go. But he said, "However, it's up to you to decide what to do." At this junction, Mr. Jagjivan Ram, who was the defense minister, and who he used to address General Manik Shaw as Sham instead of Sam. He said, "Sham, maan jao na." So, of course, Sham ignored him, and then he told the Prime Minister, "Well, I have given you professional advice. It is for you to decide. Do let me know." So the Prime Minister said, "Okay, the meeting is adjourned and we'll meet at 4 o'clock." And everybody left. And while General Manik Shah was the last one to leave, the Prime Minister asked him to stop. So when he asked her to stop and sit down, he asked her, "Madam, do you want me to resign on physical grounds or mental grounds? Do let me know." So she asked him to sit down, and then she said, "Just tell me, whatever you are saying, is it true?" So he said, "Yes, it is true." So he said, "All right." So she said that, "Okay, you have my approval. You go ahead as per your plan." And that's how then the decision was taken. But I have read another book, which again is a very famous book, in which they have said that Mrs. Gandhi was actually aware of all this, what the situation was. But probably she wanted this kind of advice to come from the mouth of the army chief so that it could have endorsed her views. And that's why she did this. One doesn't know what is the truth. So they decided a three-pronged course of action. First of all, to arm and train the Mukti Bahini and let them take care of the situation and let them resort to guerrilla warfare. The next thing was to generate international support for the action that we're going to take so that these refugees can go back. And the armed conflict was the last and the final solution. We started mobilizing international opinion, and in this, the Soviet Union was the one which really helped us a lot. And as the time proceeded and as we went into the war, their resolve was seen as a very firm resolve in helping us. They used the veto in United Nations to ensure that there was no ceasefire at the time that we do not want. They gave us a lot of military hardware, weapons and equipment. Then they also threatened the Chinese that we will come into Xinjiang. And incidentally, you all know, Xinjiang is the province which adjoins Ladakh, which was in the news recently. They also mentioned that we will take any action if the 7th Fleet comes. And you are aware that many of the books are reported, and of course, we have another book which I will mention later, which gives an account as to when the Seventh Fleet was ordered to come into the Indian Ocean, along with the Seventh Fleet, which had the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier, having 70 aircraft on board. HMS Eagle, which was also another aircraft carrier, along with the fleet of the United Kingdom, came into the Indian Ocean. And when this was picked up by the Russians, they sent their flotilla, they sent their fleet from Vladivostok along with the aircraft carrier and the nuclear submarines. Then the Britishers spotted the submarines of the Russians, and then they reported to the headquarters that we are already late, the Russians are already here. So then they went back to Madagascar. And that's how it went on. So that's how the Russians helped us. And the Indo-Soviet peace treaty, which was signed in August 71, ensured that there was a secret clause which would help us whenever there was a requirement. They also promised to recognize Bangladesh. How about USA? Mrs. Gandhi went to USA, but actually she got no support. And all this while, the USA supported Pakistan. There's a a good book called The Blood Telegram. This is written by Mr. Gary Boss, and it tells us about what happened in East Pakistan, how the Consul General of East Pakistan, Mr. Arthur Blood, kept giving information to White House saying that a lot of atrocities being committed in East Pakistan, and the army was butchering people, was not caring for human rights at all. It all was just ignored by the White House. So ultimately, when he found that nothing was happening after a few months, he did something known as sent a dissent telegram. It has never happened in the diplomatic community that the own foreign service of United States sent a telegram to their foreign ministry saying that you all are not upholding the principles of democracy which the USA espouses, and also you are just not, your policy is totally wrong in this, and we as a community here dissent this. So I'll show you this telegram in the next slide. This book also gives out a detailed account as to what transpired between Henry Kissinger, the security advisor of President Richard Nixon, and all the conversations which were taped that time, they all have been given verbatim. So in this, Richard Nixon actually never liked Indians, and he used to abuse all the Indians in general and Mrs. Gandhi in particular. So whatever abuses he's used for the Indians in Pakistan, I mean, and our Prime Minister are all given in this book. And throughout this campaign, he did everything that was possible to help Pakistanis. He asked Iran, Turkey, Jordan, France to send aircraft to Pakistan to help them and also give them equipment. He asked China to move troops on their border, which of course China did not do. And whatever was possible, he did. And of course, ultimately, the Seventh Fleet entering the Indian Ocean. The other countries which were visited by the Prime Minister are all listed here. But ultimately, these countries really did not help our cause and did not help us at all. This is the blood telegram. You can't read it, but basically, it's a very harsh telegram giving out all realities which a diplomat would never give out in writing. And of course, this cost a career to this man, Arthur Blood. He was eventually called back and sacked. So then the higher leadership in India started thinking about the options. First of all, what was the options as far as time was concerned? The first option was to launch in April and May, and the second option was, of course, the month of December. And as I said earlier, the first option was rejected for the reasons very obvious, and the second option was chosen, that is the month of December, because it suited us. And also at that time, the passes in Ladakh and Tibet would be closed, so that the Chinese will not be able to help Pakistan. The choice of theaters. This was the Western theater and this was the Eastern theater. So first choice was, of course, to attack on both the fronts. The second choice was attack on the Western theater and decisive ops in the Eastern theater. That is only a holding action. That means only keep your troops so that Pakistan cannot move out their troops from the Western theater to the Eastern theater. But the decisive operation would be in the Eastern theater. And the third one was also to encourage Mukti Bahini to carry out their operations, draw out troops from West Pakistan, and then eventually launch an offensive in East Pakistan. Ultimately, we chose option number two, that is main offensive in East Pakistan, because that is where we wanted the refugees to go back. The Mukti Bahini, you can see from their dress, all civilians who were ultimately trained by us, by the veterans of the Indian Armed Forces, and they did a marvelous job later on. It was headquartered at the Eastern Command headquarters, and there were various sector headquarters in Agartala, which was all these places were adjoining the Bangladesh border, Agartala, Kuch Bihar, and Balurghat. And Colonel Usmani was a person who actually played a very important role in raising this force. Whenever you go to war, there are a lot of preparations which have to be done, like getting the ammunition ready, getting your weapons ready, moving the ammunition to the place that you want, moving your equipment to the place you want. The troops have to go to the right place. Uh, the units also have to be made fit for the war. And of course, the other thing which happens, you are aware that there is a territorial army battalion here in Pune. The territorial army battalions also have an important role in war. They form the second line of defense. So they have to be embodied. That means the people who are on their strength have to be called to come to their battalions, and then this battalion is mobilized to go to the place where they have to fight. And also, the moving up of the formation, that is the formations who have to take part in the war, are well behind the border. So they have to be moved up to the border to be ready for the war. So all these preparations were carried out. Meanwhile, the political leadership, that the Prime Minister gave out the political directions, which was basically to liberate as much part of East Pakistan as possible and set up a government of Bangladesh. Then a swift campaign to ensure that before the UN steps in, we are able to capture maximum possible territory. And Bhutan, which is our close neighbor and a close ally, had to be defended at all costs. And the conditions in East Pakistan were to be conducive for rehabilitation of these refugees. So these directions were given by the Prime Minister to our armed forces leadership. The COSC stands for the Chiefs of Army Staff, Chiefs of Staff Committee. My fault, Chiefs of Staff Committee. You're aware that before the CDS came in, we had the Chief of Army, Navy, and the Air Force who were members of this committee, and they jointly would decide what to do as far as any conflict was concerned. So they gave directions, and at that time, General Manik Shah, then later who became a field marshal, was the chairman, Chief of Staff Committee, and he gave this direction that fight a holding battle in the Western theater and main, of course, offensive in the Eastern theater. Capture Khulna and Chittagong at the earliest. Chittagong is a very important port, and the Cox's Bazar is also very close to that in the southern portion of Bangladesh. And launch operations in the winter so that the Chinese are not able to interfere. So these were the directions given by the Chief of Staff Committee. Now the Army Chief, that is General Manik Shah, gave directions to the Indian Army, launch a multi-pronged attack in East Pakistan, and ensure that the fortresses, that is where the bulk of the Pakistani troops are, they are bypassed and you reach the objective at the earliest, and secure the communication center and destroy enemy's command and control. And also a very important issue, that preliminary operations, that is operations before the actual action takes place, should be launched to see that the Pakistani forces are drawn to the border, close to the border, so that the interior areas are lightly defended. And a very important direction, avoid damage to local and civilian property, because after all, these were our neighbors who had to be, where we had to send back the refugees. And in the West Pakistan, this is what he had said, basically to ensure that the entire front is engaged so so that the troops cannot be moved from West Pakistan to East Pakistan. Now, the Pakistani President, that is the Chief Martial Law Administrator, Jan Yahya Khan, he wanted the Western Pakistan to be the main theatre of operations. For obvious reasons, because that was his belief that the defense of East lies in the West. And minimum territory was to be denied in the East to Indian Armed Forces. And as usual, the main objective is always Jammu and Kashmir. This had to be captured at the earliest. And he wanted his neighbors, his allies, that is China, US, to interfere when there was a requirement. So finally, on 3rd of December, Pakistan launched its offensive by launching airstrikes at the Indian airfields. At this time, when this happened, Mrs. Gandhi was in Calcutta. She was touring the border areas of West Bengal to assure the Chief Minister and other people that we are looking after the refugees, we are tackling the problem, and we will take action. During this meeting, she was handed over a slip, a chit of paper by a messenger. So she read it very quietly and continued with her speech. And after that, when she was driving to the airport, she had Mr. Siddharth Shankar Rai with her. So she told him that, look, the Pakistanis have attacked our rifles. And she was actually relieved when she gave out this information. That is what is given in the book, that she was gave a sigh of relief that thank God the Pakistanis have attacked us officially. So now we can carry on with what we want. And then in the evening, she addressed the nation. And this is what she said in her speech. In a midnight speech to the nation, this is what she said. And finally, Bangladesh was liberated. But a very important anecdote of this is a letter. We looked after these prisoners of war, 93,000 of them, very well. They were prisoners of war camps established all over the country. And 5 Maratha LI was responsible for one of the prisoners of war camp. And they treated them in a very good manner. After all, when the war is over, although they are enemies, but we treat them in a very humane way. That's our culture. So the GSO1, a staff officer, Colonel Mansoor of the Pakistani armies, he wrote a letter to Colonel Chorpi, who was the commanding officer, thanking him for the human treatment given to his troops. He said, in this kind of a circumstance, nobody treats his enemy like this. But I must thank you for this, and I'll never forget you for the kind of treatment that you've given. So this is the letter, a copy of the letter which he had sent to the commanding officer. Very rarely done by any of your enemies, I would say. And with that, I come to the end as to how this war started. And now I'll hand over to the next speaker to tell you as to what exactly happened before 3rd of December. Just read what is written at the end. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, sir, for that presentation. The never say die spirit shown by our soldiers during these battles reminded me of a Hindi poem by Ayodhya Singh Upadhyay. I quote from the poem Karmveer. देख कर बाधा विविध बहुविघ्न घबराते नहीं, रह भरोसे भाग्य के दुख भोग पछताते नहीं, काम कितना ही कठिन हो किंतु उकताते नहीं, भीड़ में चंचल बने जो वीर दिखलाते नहीं। हो गए एक आन में उनके बुरे दिन भी भले, सब जगह सब काल में वे ही मिले फूले फले। आज करना है जिसे करते उसे हैं आज ही, सोचते कहते हैं जो कुछ कर दिखाते हैं वही, मानते जो भी हैं सुनते हैं सदा सबकी कही, जो मदद करते हैं अपनी इस जगत में आप ही। भूल कर वे दूसरों का मुंह कभी तकते नहीं, कौन ऐसा काम है वे कर जिसे सकते नहीं। I dedicate this poem, Karmveer, to the martyrs who laid down their lives to defend the idea of freedom in the 1971 war. I now invite Brigadier Ajit Apte to give his presentation.
General Pandit Sir, Air Marshal Gokhale, Admiral Pasricha, ladies and gentlemen, I am indeed honored today that some very distinguished veterans of the wars which this country fought since 1947 are here. Brigadier Jathar, Major Arun Phatak, a great mentor of mine, Brigadier Sapatnekar. He bullied me a lot right from my youngster days in the regiment, and I am indeed happy that I learnt a lot. Unfortunately, my commanding officer in the 1971 war, who was just a little senior to General Pandit, was to come here, but for some reason he could not do so. Distinguished people from the Maharashtra Education Society, I am indeed honored to have been invited here to speak on this Swarnim Vijay Varsh celebrations. My father, as was mentioned in my biodata, I am a second generation army officer. My father was there in the Second World War. He also fought the 47-48 war in its closing final stages. He fought the 62 war. He was a brigade commander during the 1965 war, but he retired just before the 71 war. So I can say with a lot of pride that in our family, between my father and myself, we have seen all the campaigns. My father, of course, from the Second World War onwards. As General Mahajan very nicely has explained the start point of the 71 war, it was a Friday, I still remember, 3rd December 1971, at about 12:30 hours, this gentleman who's here, Brigadier Sapatnekar, was that time the adjutant of the regiment. He summoned us under a huge tree, which we had named as the Clive tree. There was a briefing by Colonel Sahasrabudhe, my commanding officer. I was about the junior most officer in the regiment. I was not even 21 years old. And orders were given, but somehow we had an inkling that something is going to happen. I was given a parcel saying that there is a parcel for you, so I picked it up, but I didn't open it. I reached my gun position, and one of my technical assistant Havaldars was very keen to open it because he thought there may be some sweets. My birthday was frankly 15 days hence, that is on the 18th of December. So he was eager to open it. I told him, open it. He found a transistor. It was a Bush baton transistor, which was famous in those days, and more famous because there was a beautiful model, Sharmila Tagore. She was the heartthrob for most of us who were in the NDA at that time. And I found that very nice. Both my younger brothers apparently had bought that transistor, and it was fixed. Sapatnekar was already giving us orders to fire intermittently, and just then the radio crackled at about 17:15 hours when two gentlemen came on the radio. One was Surojit Sen and the other one was Borun Haldar. All the elderly generations will remember them, top class All India radio announcers, and they just said that the Pakistan Air Force has struck on 11 airfields on the Western Front. Stand to was ordered. I opened fire. Of course, I got motivated looking at Sharmila Tagore's picture and ordered straight away 5 rounds gunfire. That's how I heralded the start of the 71 war on the Eastern Front. But let me tell you, the war was not just 14 days. For many of us, the war was 90 days, which people don't understand. I was deployed on 23rd of September and I opened fire. But before I come to that, let me just give you an overview what exactly happened. If you see this, no, these slides. Yeah. Okay. Now, the first slide, if you have a look at it, that's what India and Pakistan were when war started. There was an East Pakistan. Yeah. So there was an East Pakistan and there was a West Pakistan, as General Mahajan has explained. As far as the war development was concerned, which General Mahajan has already mentioned, I'll first touch upon Operation Jackpot. That basically meant that we were to support the Mukti Bahini, and that was till 30th of November. So it included support to the Mukti Bahini, it included shaping the battlefield. Shaping the battlefield is very important because based on that, the entire concept of war is developed. How do we gain a foothold and what do we do? So shaping the battlefield was done right from September 71 onwards, and I participated in that because as an artillery officer, we kept firing all over the front in our Jessore Khulna sector. The attacks that took place, which I will describe a little later, I participated in all those. But interestingly, what General Mahajan mentioned, I'll take on from there. If you look at this, these are the airfields which were attacked on 3rd December. It was known as Operation Chengiz Khan. Possibly the Pakistan decided on a Friday because 3rd December 1971 was a Friday, and coincidentally 50 years down the line, the calendar is a mirror image. You'll realize that even this year, 3rd December, when we celebrate the Golden Jubilee, it is a Friday. So they not only targeted the airfields, but they also hit our radar installations. And that was actually very, very welcome. We all wanted it. Pakistan precipitated, and that enabled Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to declare war. The Indian offensives commenced soon after on the Western Front. General Pandit here, our chairman, is a stalwart of the Western Front, where he commanded his regiment, an engineer regiment, and displayed gallantry to win the Veer Chakra. The war starts on the Western Front, and on our Eastern Front also, we got the legitimacy to cross the border, which we had already done before war. We were already 8 to 10 kilometers inside, and therefore, officially, war got declared. Next. Before the war started, I thought I must brief you a little on what exactly was the situation, which is very, very important for you all to realize. If you look at this map, this gives the complete layout of the Eastern Front and the staging forward, combat elements, logistics, infrastructure, all that had started right from August 71. And I'm happy to say that I was part of that. I moved into Calcutta. My regiment came in from NIFA. My commanding officer gave me all the tasks because I was a second lieutenant. And the second lieutenant, as you know, is like what Jerry Lewis is, the man who can run around everywhere. Of course, I enjoyed myself in Calcutta. I went to some of the finest clubs there, the Blue Fox, and, enjoyed myself, but also did the work and people were happy. But this is important that all these forces started assembling right from August 71 in Calcutta. In fact, Calcutta, let me tell you, started swelling with military bases, and it reminded one of how England started swelling up just before the Normandy invasion on 6 June 1944. So that is what Calcutta had become. Very clearly, General Sam Manekshaw had given the missions and objectives in East Pakistan, the shaping the battlefield since March 71, all that had commenced. I opened fire actually on 26 September 1971 on targets like Chaugacha, Chutipur, Garibpur, Masliya, Borinda. These are all on my fingertips. I don't need a map at all. The Indian offensive was planned very well in Headquarters Eastern Command by Major General J.F.R. Jacob, the Chief of Staff. And in a nutshell, I just wish to tell you, it was a four-pronged offensive. On the west was R Corps, that is 2 Corps. It was newly formed on 6th October 1971 by placing 9 Infantry Division and 4 Infantry Division under command with Lieutenant General T.N. Raina as the new Corps Commander. We had 2 divisional commanders. 9 Infantry Division, that is my division, was commanded by Major General Dalbir Singh from the Jat Regiment, and the other division was commanded by a gunner officer, Major General Brar. This was to be... Come back to the original slide. Yeah. This was the thrust from the western side. Then from the northwest, we had the 20 Div, which fought a major battle at Hilli, and that was part of 33 Corps. 33 Corps had its 17 Mountain Division looking after the Chinese front. We could not denude that part. On the northeastern front, that's the third prong, we had the 101st Communication Zone. Initially, Major General Gill was the General Officer commanding. He got injured, and subsequently, another general came and took over. Gandharv Nagra was his name. On the eastern front was 4 Corps commanded by that great gentleman, Lieutenant General Sagat, who actually was the architect to open the doors into Dhaka. General Sagat was on the eastern prong. 33 Corps was commanded by General Thapan. So you had 3 corps, 2 Corps, General Tapi Raina from the Kumaon Regiment, very famous for his Chinese action when he was a brigade commander, when Brigadier Jathar was there. The 33 Corps, General Thapan, General Gandharv Nagra, and on the eastern front, the offensive was launched by General Sagat. So this was the overall force level, and I'll cover how exactly it happened. The Indian Air Force had 22 and 30 squadrons with us at Kalaikunda, but they had moved up to Calcutta at Dum Dum. Then on the northwestern sector of our country, we had 17, 27, 4, 24, 15 and 28 squadrons functioning from there, all fighter bombers. And we had a helicopter, 110 helicopter squadron, which did marvelous work. As far as the Pakistan force level is concerned, Pakistan had its Eastern Command at Dhaka. It had 36, 39, 14, 16 and 9 infantry divisions. But let me tell you, out of that, 36 and 39 were skeleton divisions. 39, in fact, was being raised when the war broke out. So they were frankly ineffective. The effective divisions were 14, 16 and 9. And I must tell you here, my father's coursmate of the Second World War, Then Major General Shaukat Reza was commanding the Pakistan 9 Infantry Division. My father also was a colleague of General Tika Khan in the Second World War. He was also a gunner officer. General Shaukat Reza was commanding 9 Infantry Division, and out of the 9 Infantry Division which was on our front, we had the 107 Infantry Brigade located at Jessore. This brigade figures importantly because when I cover the next part, which is the offensive on my front, this will figure. In that sector, they had 9 Infantry Division with 107 Infantry Brigade, which had 15, 22, and 38 frontier forces, 6 Punjab, 21 Punjab, and 12 Punjab Lesser Company. It had 55 field regiment and 49 field regiments and a mortar battery. Air Force was only 14 Squadron Pakistan Air Force. That was the overall layout. We had, in addition, 50 independent para brigade, less a battalion group. I'll cover that. That battalion group was finally dropped at Tangel and at the Pungli Bridge to capture it. But one important aspect is very, very important to note, that the Eastern Command planning, especially by General Jacob, General Inder Gill, who was the Director General Military Operations, had planned very well to thin out forces once the operations on the Eastern Front would achieve success. Therefore, intra-sector movement of reserves and inter-sector movement of reserves from the east to the west was well planned and executed also, as I'll tell you subsequently. Next slide. Okay, this is just going to give you an overview what exactly happened. If you look at this slide, as General Mahajan brought out, this was a fantastic integration and synergy between the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, which was only seen in World War II. Never after that have there been jointmanship and force multiplication between the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. Good rapport. We had special heliborne operations by the Air Force. The airborne assault was done on Tangel. Pungli Bridge was captured. This bridge's capture ensured that 95 Infantry Brigade of Pakistan could not fall back to protect Dhaka, and Dhaka was left open. The Indian Navy played a great role. We did an amphibious assault with the Gurkha Battalion at Cox's Bazar, Chittagong area. Pakistanis had vacated, therefore this was also carried out. I will cover this separately, but this was a major orchestrated battle which enabled commanders to strike deep, hard, and swift. There is something known as the torrent. Expanding torrent is a very important factor used by Captain Basil Littleheart during World War I and World War II. That is exactly what we did. The Indian Army, on its four-pronged offensive, just poured into Pakistan, and they had no other option. And this particular event, that is this the airborne offensive, had a small element of deception in it. Somehow, a message got across that a complete parachute brigade was jumping, whereas only a battalion group jumped because we didn't have the capability to airlift a complete brigade. So here, there was one battalion group, that is the 2 parachute battalion, which was incidentally a Maratha battalion, and its link-up was carried out by the 1st Marathas in that area. And the moment this happened, Niazi realized that his game is over. So that was a very clear action that took place. Of course, amphibious assault, I've already told you. So this was the overall picture, how the force multiplication and its application took place on the Eastern Front. Next. Okay, now, as you know, there's going to be a talk on the 24th. There are going to be a series of lectures in April in which different sectors of the Bangladesh war will be covered. I am going to basically cover the Jessore Khulna front, which is two core, and I'll give out some of my actual examples. I must tell you that when the Indian Air Force went into a counter-offensive air offensive on 4th, my brother, Flight Lieutenant Pradeep Apte, was killed in action, a few courses senior to Air Marshal Bingo Gokhale. He was a fighter pilot, recently married, and he was on at number 2 wing at Pune, 220 Squadron. He was on HF-24's Maruts. He took off on the 4th of December on the first counter-air offensive with then squadron leader of Flight Lieutenant Dinky Jathar. My cousin bailed out. He was captured and killed. He was married just 8 months. So when, in fact, in that war, we were 3 cousins fighting. I was in the army. My elder cousin was in the Air Force and my younger cousin was in the Navy, but all of us were fighting in the 71 war. In our 9 Infantry Division, this is the order of battle, 32 Brigade. It had these battalions, 42 Brigade, 350 Brigade. That is the brigade we were supporting, 9 RT Brigade, and all these other elements which were present there. On the period before 3rd of December, there was a major battle fought at Garibpur, which is in this area, Chaugacha, this area, just across the Boira salient. What happened was that on 20th November, the 14 Punjab was told to secure this Garibpur Chaugacha axis, which was leading to Jessore. It was not occupied by the Pakistan forces. 14 Punjab got the entire artillery of 9 Div. We were also part of it. And with them, there was a squadron of 45 cavalry commanded by Major D.S. Narang. The moment 14 Punjab occupied Garibpur, they were threatened by 6 Punjab, Pakistan, from the northwest, that is this place, Chaugacha, which you can see here, Chaugacha. And also 107 Pakistan Brigade violently reacted and launched a counter-attack. The artillery fired fire plan Sher Dil. We beat that counter-attack, and in that I had participated. I was with the squadron of 45 cavalry at priority call when I saw the enemy tanks coming head-on towards my gun position. I had ordered my guns on the anti-tank roll, and I was just hoping how well I tackle them when this is called Providence. The tanks, which were just about 400 meters in front of my guns, for some unknown reason, swung away from me and made a direct head-on towards Jessore. I therefore refrained from giving the order fire only because of the expert advice I got from a junior commissioned officer from my regiment who had fought the 1965 war. In that battle, Major D.S. Narang was martyred. He was killed in action. He got a Mahavir Chakra posthumously. The brigade commander there, 42 Infantry Brigade, Brigadier Gharaya, got a Mahavir Chakra. The commanding officer of 14 Punjab got a Mahavir Chakra and various gallantry awards. One of our forward observation officers also got a Veer Chakra. Once that battle was over, we then moved up and started getting on towards a place called Jingargacha. Jingargacha is a little southwest of Jessore, which was held by 107 Brigade. At this place, there is a river out here, and that river had to be crossed, but there was no bridge because we had 2 engineer regiments with us. One was the 102nd 102 Engineer Regiment, Bombay Sappers, and the other regiment was 268 Engineer Regiment, which was actually Army Headquarter Reserves. As you know, Bangladesh was all riverine terrain. It was marshy and boggy. Therefore, we had to resort to crossing these rivers and the small nalas that were possible. I reached there for the Battle of Jessore. We were just about 18 or 20 kilometers away when I found that there was no bridge. I reached the banks of the river and I found an officer there, Captain Mahara. He said that I'll give you some rafts. Before that, I must cover one important aspect, and that is the air battle of Boira, which actually took place on 22nd of November. Now, what happened that day was, it was incidentally a Monday, and the Battle of Garipur, which I explained to you, is actually intertwined with the air battle of Boira, because since we had an offensive posture, the Pakistan 14th Squadron kept attacking us and attacking my guns, the tanks, and the bridging harbors. We had our engineer bridging harbors. So we were air attacked on 19th, we were air attacked on 20th, we were air attacked on 21st. We were also shelled. In fact, I have come under enemy shelling 3 times during one day. Our adjutant, then Captain Sapatnekar, is here. We took all the precautions. Luckily, the shells fell either in front of me or behind me. Some of the splinters came, but we were lucky nothing hit us. The airstrikes came. We asked for our Air Force. We said, "Where is our Air Force?" And we were told that the air is not available, possibly because war had not been declared on 22nd of November. On 22nd November at about 9 o'clock in the morning, I saw enemy sabers attacking my gun position. They came down, swooping down like the Stuka bombers of the Second World War, or the German bombers. I'll show you, if you can just switch on those. I'll show you exactly how the air attack took place. Yeah. Now, the slide before that, the one before this. No, the one before this. Yeah. Please have a look. In fact, I have structured the air battle along with the Air Force, and this is exactly how I saw the sabers coming in. There were 3 sabers who attacked our gun position. The entire 9 Infantry Division and 2 Corps saw this air strike. These are our guns. These aircraft came on 19th, 20th, and 21st, but this is exactly what happened on 22nd. The Sabre number 1 flew between my gun position and the neighboring gun position at treetop height. He swooped down. I thought he'll bomb us, but he pulled up and the bomb fell over the Engineer Bridge Marshalling Harbor of 102 Engineer Regiment. Today, General Pitre is not here, but he was there that day. General Pitre was commanding what is known as the Victoria Cross Company. There was a bridge there on the Kabadak River where our own tank had got stuck. So once this happened, this continued for a good about 3 to 4 minutes. Next. Now I'll show you what exactly happened. When this was happening, our adjutant, Captain Sapatnekar, sitting here, ordered a stand to, and all of us got in. The anti-aircraft guns, L-60s and L-70s, opened up. We could see them trying to hit the enemy aircraft, but nothing happened. At that moment, I distinctly saw 4 aircraft coming in from my left. So we thought more Pakistani aircraft have come, but it wasn't so. So if you have a look, G1 and G2 are NATs. They came in, and behind them, the other Sabre got behind. This is how the Air Force tactics takes place. Air Marshal Bingo Gokhale is an expert in this, but this is what happened on our front. When this happened, the air battle started. We all got out of our trenches, looked up, and I saw the dogfight happening. Within a couple of minutes, 2 of our aircraft, 2 NATs, and there were 4 pilots, flying officers and flight lieutenants, Ganpati, Massey, Lazarus, and Sunit Francis Suarez. They got into action. All of them got behind the sabers, and a pair of cannons slammed straight into the right wing of the first aircraft that was When he bailed out, we caught him on the ground. 4 Sikh was there. Captain Panag later became Lieutenant General and Army Commander. He apprehended the first pilot. He turned out to be Flight Lieutenant Parvez Mehdi Qureshi. He was captured. He had ejected over 4 Sikh. The second pilot was hit by Ganpati and Massey, Roy Andrew Massey. They together hit him, and the second aircraft blew up. The pilot ejected. His name was Flying Officer Khalil Ahmed. Khalil Ahmed landed over the first Jammu and Kashmir Rifles of our brigade. Both of them were captured. They were sent back to my regiment, 14 Field, which was exactly a kilometer behind the front line defenses. I, being the nearest gun position officer, was called. The commanding officer, Colonel Sasrabuddhe, gave strict orders on the radio that none of the pilots will be harmed. Our second in command and Captain Sapatnekar, now brigadier retired here sitting on the front row, summoned me. We did the basic interrogation. I saw Flight Lieutenant Parvez Mehdi's flying suit. I took out his map. We gave him tea. We gave him biscuits. He told us that he should not be handed over to the Mukti Bahini. I took out his map and I saw that all our gun positions were marked in red as enemy targets. He told us that information had been given, some by the Mukti Bahini and some by their own intelligence, and their primary targets were Indian Army guns, tanks, bridge marshalling harbors, and all the other equipment that would hold for the battle. Mehdi and Khalil Ahmed were captured. I blindfolded them. That day at about 3:34, I never realized that I am blindfolding a future Air Chief of the Pakistan Air Force. He was taken back. Both of them were put onto a courier flight the next day after interrogation at Calcutta. And coincidentally, the two pilots who took them to Delhi were again my course mates. Flying Officer Pradeep Kapoor of the Indian Air Force and Flying Officer Abraham. They took these two pilots. They were given good khana by a Great Eastern Hotel in Calcutta because the orders were that the Indian Army will look after all its prisoners. That was the end of 14 Squadron. The third aircraft flew back Wing Commander Chaudhary. He was the squadron commander. And after that, we didn't have too much trouble from the Pakistan Air Force. Okay, next, back to the original slide. I must say here one thing which I'll cover later. Probably Air Marshal Gokhale will tell me. I've come to know that in no annals of any war history have the pilots of the Air Force who actually attacked later met the ground forces and had a reunion. We had it. Okay, come back to the main slide. Yeah. Now, Jessore, I'll tell you what happened here at the Kabadak River. I met an old divisional officer of mine from the NDA and I requested him. I got a pair of rafts and I took my guns across the river because I had to deploy to support 1st J&K Rifles. The river was fast. I took 2 rafts, loaded them with 3 guns. 2 guns on one raft, 1 gun on the other raft. I took a field artillery tractor and the first line ammunition scale and crossed that river, which is about 50 meters in fast flowing current. We crossed across, got onto the other side and started supporting and firing for the Battle of Jessore. When I was firing for the Battle of Jessore, the roads were clogged and we soon found that there was much more resistance than what we had expected and the number of guns that were deployed on ground was less. So a quick action was ordered. The whole regiment deployed, and I must say that the locals, Bangladeshis or East Pakistanis at that time, helped us a lot. In fact, some of our ammunition was brought even in their cycle rickshaws. Just when I was firing at rate intense in the afternoon at about 4:30, To my great assistance came Flight Lieutenant Sharad Savoor. He was the forward air controller with our brigade. He stopped. He saw me doing this action of sending one by one people and some ammunition coming in the cycle rickshaw. He stopped. He said, I don't know you. And I said, Sir, I don't know you. But he said, Can I help? I said, Yes, if you can give me your 1 ton and that one jeep, you can be of great help. I'll give you some hot tea. Sharad Savoor agreed and he unloaded his that GU 734. Am I right, Bingo, sir? That forward air controller set. And we went across, picked up the ammunition, which was across the road. The Sardars had come with their thalas. It was absolutely fantastic logistic support. My guns fired at rate intense, rapid, charge super, and we captured Jessore that night. Jessore fell on night 6th and 7th. I entered Jessore with my battery commander on 7th morning at about 0200 hours. And the best part we found was we captured a Pakistani fire tender. We got into it, drove through Jessore because I was given orders to move ahead and deploy my guns because there would be fierce counterattacks from the Pakistanis. That done, a very strange thing happened on the 8th and 9th after Jessore was captured. There was a call for a defensive fire save our souls. Now, that in artillery terms means the battalion is under severe threat and the attack on them was very severe. Pakistanis are known to launch fierce counterattacks. So, this counterattack was launched, and the OP officer of that 67 Field Regiment of 32 Infantry Brigade found his guns out of range. I was keeping an eye on the Delta 5 net, which is the brigade net which I am not supposed to be on. But I cheated. And I was hauled up by this gentleman sitting here for doing that. But he also thanked me because my guns were ready. Because I already knew the target. I opened fire and the radio set was being jammed by the Pakistanis. At that juncture, Captain Kulkarni, the forward observation officer with 67 Field Regiment, I think he was with 13 Dogras. He got to know somehow, I don't know how, maybe Captain Sapatnekar let him know that I am a Maharashtrian, and he started transmitting fire orders to me in Marathi. There are a lot of people here who understand Marathi. He just told me in one simple term, don't bother about anything. You got my target location, just do 5 rounds gunfire. I did that. We beat back the attack, and after that, the swing down towards Khulna was excellent. Kulkarni was saved that day, but alas, on 16 December, he was killed in action in the Battle of Siramani. I am still in touch with his wife. She's 81 years old. He left behind 2 small children, one girl, Sushma, and one boy, Shirish. I keep talking to them. They were to have come today to hear this presentation, but they had some other work and all these COVID protocols. The regiment looks after them even now, and I'm very sad that the person whom we saved outside Jessore got killed a few days after that. But that is how war is. We proceeded ahead and swung down from Jessore southeast. I want to bring out one point here of human values. There are certain locations which when we reached and we were ordered to fire our guns from, that is the gun positions, I found a lot of Pakistani soldiers killed. So what we did was, I got my battery together because I was with the Dogras and they're very sentimental. So we must have found at least 15 to 20 bodies lying there. The Pakistanis in their khaki dress, and they were wearing blue jerseys. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it was a tough task. But we carried out absolutely ceremonially, we disposed those bodies in the trenches. My battery stood fast except for a few gunners who were firing. I ensured that we paid respects to those Pakistani soldiers who had laid down their lives for their nation. So in war, this is important because I also lost men. In fact, that morning I had sent a patrol party. All four, their bodies came back. I didn't know what to do. I was not even 21. I felt like weeping, but I couldn't cry because I was commanding 120 people. From there, we proceeded ahead and swung down towards Khulna. But at Khulna, something very strange happened. There was a tough fight, and we got delayed at a place called Gilatala and Daulatpur and Shamganj. They are all in this axis out here, coming down towards Khulna. 32 Brigade, 42 Brigade, and my brigade had all started ringing ceremony. 107 Infantry Brigade, commanded by Brigadier Hayat, refused to surrender. He knew fully well that the game was up, but he continued to fight. So, what happened was we were ordered to move up. That's the time when I met an old friend of mine, Lieutenant Amitabh. He also retired as a brigadier, a very dear friend of mine. I had been without food for 36 hours. No food, no water, because our logistics elements could not fetch up. So I went there. He was also scared because he had been isolated at a railway station called Gelatala. He was happy. He met me. I had a puri. He had only two puris. He gave me one. He was sipping tea. I had half a cup of tea. And even today, believe me, that puri and cup of hot tea in that enamel mug can never be matched even by a 7-star buffet in a 7-star hotel. Let me tell you that. That one puri which an officer shares with another soldier is worth its weight in tons of gold. This is something which we armed forces people know about. From there, we went ahead and my adjutant gave me orders to be with the vanguard because the battle was meeting with stiff resistance at a place called Seramani. Something very strange happened. It was night 13th, 14th when we fired fire plan Lal Peti. Borinda had already been captured at a very heavy cost. We had an officer, Captain Suresh Sharma, who was wounded, had to be evacuated. We had double casualties that day in my regiment. Captain Prem Sood was wounded, had to be evacuated out of battle. And we had 3 or 4 people killed in action, including one of my regiment officers, Captain Ashok Nakanna. Nakanna was a bachelor, engaged to be married, but that never happened. He was killed in action. The entire battle was stiffening up near Siramani when I was told by CO 45 cavalry, this is on night 15th, 16th, that don't go ahead, there's a minefield, it has to be breached. At that point, I put my battery in a hide. I informed the adjutant that I just can't proceed because the minefield has to be breached. Then I did something very foolish. I started going around the Pakistani bunkers and trenches, little realizing that they could have been booby trapped. And there I found a briefcase. I picked up the briefcase. I went through it. There was an officer, Lieutenant Kurban Ali Raza. I'll show you his picture. I'll show you also the picture of his girlfriend. Not the picture, I returned the pictures, but the letter written by this girl. I have it with me. I've kept this letter with me for 50 years now, laminated. I saw all this, and when I was just standing on the roadside, a Toyota car drove up to me, and a gentleman got down. He was wearing black overalls. So, assuming that he is an Indian Army officer, I saluted him. I said, "Good evening, sir." It was about 5 o'clock. And in Bangladesh, the light starts failing around 4:35. He got out. He told me, he said, "Young man, the war is over." said, the war is over? He said, yes. He said, I am second in command of the 3 independent armored squadron of the Pakistan Army. I said, okay, sir. He said, who's the senior most officer here? I said, I'll take you to him. So I saw one gentleman, Captain Gupta from 45 Cavalry. I took this Pakistani officer to him. I said, sir, this is what this gentleman says. So Gupta and I, he handed over his revolver. And Captain Gupta and I took this Pakistani officer to where the minefield was being breached with the trawl tanks, trawls. And Lieutenant Colonel Jamwal, Commandant 45 Cavalry, took him, said, what's the matter? He said, sir, the war is over. We said, we don't know. He said, sir, the surrender has taken place at Dhaka. We said, okay, we can't believe you. So we made him sit down. We gave him tea. And then the minefield was breached at 2:30 in the morning. And General Pandit will know that a minefield, when it is breached, it makes a vehicle safe lane. It's quite tricky because I had to take my guns following the armored squadron, where the armor leads followed by the artillery. And I was just keeping my fingers crossed that my drivers don't drive over a mine, because the minefield, when it is cleared, only gives you 2 treadways for the vehicle wheels to go over, and there is still a 35 to 40% chance that your vehicle can hit a mine. I was lucky. Nothing of that sort happened. God was with us. And I crossed the minefield at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I deployed on the other side and opened fire, heavy firing. The rest of the regiment followed up with Captain Sapatnekar leading the balanced gun group. We crossed over, and at about 7 o'clock in the morning, there was a crisp transmission from my commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel R.P. Sasrabuddhe. Said 1 for 1, 2, 5, and all stations 3. The war is over. Await further instructions. Sapatnekar announced on the radio, cease firing, prepare for the surrender. We went, and as I told you, I was about the junior most officer in the regiment. Luckily, one more person joined after me. We were given the task of assisting in the surrender at Khulna. So we went there. There was a school, and all these Pakistanis had lined up. So Pakistan 6th Punjab Regiment, 55 Field Regiment was my task to disarm them, and there were some frontier force people. Now what happened was, I saw one person who I thought I have seen earlier. Then I remembered I have taken a briefcase, and possibly this gentleman's photograph is with me. So I had another look, and lo and behold, I asked him, I said, are you Lieutenant Qurban Ali Raza of 38th Frontier Force? He said, yes. How do you know? I said, you are the guy who ran away from Siramani, vacating your bunkers and trenches. I have taken your briefcase. Oh, is that so? He said. I said, yes. I have seen your girlfriend's letters. I have seen your girlfriend's pictures. Beautiful girl. He said, I am supposed to be getting engaged to her. I said, well, now you're a prisoner. Sapatnekar was there. He told me, he said, Ajit, can you show him your memorabilia? I said, yes, sir. I went to my 1-ton vehicle. I took out that briefcase and brought it to him. We had this other officer, Riza, from Lucknow. He was a Muslim. So when I called out Riza, that's the time when CO of this 6th Punjab, he said, oh, you got a Muslim officer with you? I said, yes, sir, we have Muslims. I said, he is Mirza Hassan Riza. By the time I brought this briefcase and took out the letters and the pictures, this officer requested me, he said, can I have my briefcase back? I said, no. But then CO 55 Field Regiment started quizzing Riza. So when Riza told him that he is from Lucknow and that I had also studied in Lucknow in St. Francis School, this prisoner, Lieutenant Qurban Ali Raza, he tells us, incidentally, I am also from Lucknow, India. My parents migrated to Pakistan only in 1956. And he said, I have studied in St. Francis School in Hazratganj. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Lucknow. So the CO 55 field ordered more chai and pakoda. You see, as it is, they were looking after us very well. They were living in style. So more chai pakoda came. We got talking, and then Riza quizzed him, and he found that all the information he gave was absolutely correct. He also said that his maternal uncle, Mama, his mother's younger brother, was with the Indian Air Force Flying Officer Imtiaz Ahmed. And Air Marshal Bingo Gokhale knows about it because he was, I think, 3 years his senior from NDA. So at that moment, something came in my mind, and I told Qurban Ali Raza, I said, take your briefcase back. I returned all his girlfriend's letters, but I said, I'm going to keep one letter because this girlfriend of yours has written Crush India, which I don't like. He said, can I have her pictures back? I said, yes, definitely. Because I thought I was a bachelor then, not married, but I did have friends. So I said, I wouldn't have liked my friends to know that their letter has been captured by an enemy officer. So I returned all his letters, the girl's pictures. I have kept his photograph and one letter, which I will show you once I finish, which is another just 3 to 4 minutes. We went for the surrender. Brigadier Hayat, Pakistan 107 Infantry Brigade, was allowed to keep his badges of rank, and he finally handed them over to Major General Dalbir Singh. Next slide, please. These are the pilots who shot down the Sabres on 22nd November. This is the officer whom I captured as a flight lieutenant. He became Air Chief Marshal of the Pakistan Air Force in 99 during the Kargil War. This is a picture. That's what I was asking Air Marshal. I had invited Air Marshal Bingo Gokhale, but he was busy. He couldn't come. I think he was out of station. But I'm told by many Air Force officers that this kind of reunion between the attacking pilots and the ground forces has never taken place. And we met together after 47 years in Pune. Next picture. Yeah. This is myself passing angles to the guns just before the final battle of Jessore. I told you I had done that, opposed that river crossing. I deployed my guns. I had to take out my helmet because when I was passing angles to the guns, because of the magnetic field, the steel helmet has to be taken out. This is my command post bunker, which was attacked by the Pakistani Air Force that day, but luckily no bomb fell on it. This is our regiment. After the victory, we captured their officers' mess. And in fact, my birthday cake on 18 December was made there with Pakistani ingredients. We used their liquor and wine, and we had a good time. Now, this is an interesting story out here. He was my brigade commander, Brigadier Harbhajan Singh Sandhu. This is Brigadier Hayat, 107 Infantry Brigade, Pakistan. And this is Brigadier Tiwari, Commander, 32 Infantry Brigade. The interesting part here is all three were batchmates before partition. This gentleman, Pakistani 107 Brigade Commander, and Brigadier Tiwari were roommates in the Indian Military Academy in Dehradun in 1946 after the Second World War, when the Indian Military Academy had started commencing their regular courses. All three coursemates met. In fact, some of the pictures have been taken by me from my box camera, and I had this picture. And Commander 107 Brigade confessed to us, I've heard him, that he didn't surrender because what General Mahajan had brought out, that telegram and various assurances given that the US 7th Fleet will actually evacuate his brigade. But that didn't happen. So he was captured by us. Next slide. This is how I took my guns across the river. This picture was taken by my commanding officer, Colonel Sasrabuddhe. I think this is a Krupman raft. General Pandit sir, probably you will be able to advise me, because this is subsequently which was used for a Krupman bridge over the Kabadak river. I had a tough time because the enemy was firing across the river, The enemy air was also active, but I was lucky I got through. I was recommended for a gallantry award, but I didn't get one. That's all right, doesn't matter. Here, this is the jeep which we captured just outside Jessore. This is my regiment, people. This is the tank of 63 cavalry. We had a squadron with us, and this is how we entered Khulna. I took this picture at the milestone showing Khulna about 7 or 8 kilometers. Miles, actually, it was. This is my troops the day the air attack took place in that trench. Next. This is one of the bridges that the engineers built for us. My great salute to the Corps of Engineers. This picture was taken by me at the surrender. This is Brigadier Hayat, the commander 107 Infantry Brigade, and his officers. These are the officers these are the men I personally met. This task was given to me by then Captain Sapatnekar that I must arrange them and get them to fall in. So it was a matter of great honor for me as a second lieutenant, not even 21, that I saw nearly about hundreds of prisoners being lined up in front of me. I think in our sector, 107 Brigade had nearly 8,000 people who surrendered to us. And this is the officer whose belongings I took, Lieutenant Qurban Ali Raza, 38 Frontier Force. Next. If you can just show those two letters, that's all. Then I'm done with. I'll just show you the two letters which I found very interesting. Yeah, this is the letter which this girl wrote. And this is where she has written Crush India. Is that readable to everyone? Yeah. Please don't ever be scared of death. All that she writes. Preparations for war have started in case India attacks. This wretched India is really bugging me. Crush India. These are the words of a 17 or 18-year-old girl. This guy was only 23. And if this is what she could write, in one of the pages she has written she is willing to serve the Pakistan Armed Forces to fight against this wretched India. This letter is with me for 50 years and I have preserved it, much against the wishes of my wife, but I have kept it. And this brings me to the close of my talk, but I'll just say one or two things before I hand over to the coordinator. In this period, I learnt a lot. I was not even 21. I saw action. I was under enemy shelling, enemy air attacks. I did a rafting across the river. I paid tribute to Pakistani soldiers, our own soldiers, and I learnt a lot. And I realized one thing, that war is a deadly affair, but it makes a man out of you. I learnt leadership, taking decisions in battle when there are no copybooks or no advisors, no mentors who will come to your help. I incidentally commanded the same regiment with which I went to war. My father had founded that regiment in 1956. He was the first commanding officer, and I became the 17th commanding officer of the same regiment. That brings me to the culmination of my talk and my experiences during the 71 war. And I do realize one thing, because during the Kargil conflict, I was a brigade commander. Once the responsibilities weigh heavily on your mind, then many other things happen. But we were happy that we went to war, we came back safely, we not only liberated a country, but we rewrote the history and geography of the subcontinent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. for an interesting presentation. I am simply amazed at your photographic memory. It is time now for the presidential remarks by Lieutenant General B.T. Pandit. I invite him to the podium for his address. Oh.
I think I will give about 5 minutes break. A lot of people have gone in. In the meantime, I will tell some stories. This morning, when we were having breakfast, my wife tells me की युद्धाच्या गोष्टी तुम्ही बोलता आहात थोडं तिखट मीठ लावा. I hope Pasha Pashircha, you understand little that much Marathi. She said that war stories are very interesting, but add some spice to it. And a lot of spice has been added by Ajit. I will get down to earth and I will tell you what I saw this war from scene 1 of Act 1 to last scene of the final act. And when was the first scene played? March 71. Just about this time, I was in MO Directorate. I was in Military Operations Directorate, which those days was very small, compact directorate. It was a mini GHQ and controlled all operations in the entire country. When the message came about arrest of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, I think it was 23rd October, we were hurriedly called for a meeting. My portfolio included war preparations, deployment, mobilization, and movement of formations. Immediately we started working out various options. What time, where, how much, what should be the objective? We came to the conclusion, at that time even 2 corps was not. Thank you. Even 2 corps was not in existence. On the western side, Pakistan had 2 strategic reserves, Army Reserve North, Army Reserve South. As against this, we had only 1 corps reserve. With this situation and our equipment, technology-wise, Pakistan still had little edge over us. We had preponderance of force in the eastern theatre, whereas in the western theatre, near parity in infantry and slight disadvantage in armor. We started with that position. So our first conclusion was that if you want to react immediately, we can only go in one sector. That is Khulna Jessore sector, which Ajit talked about, with a limited aim of capturing as much territory as possible where the Bangladesh government in exile could be shifted and established. But our experience in J&K in 1948, when we accepted ceasefire prematurely, led to this permanent dispute with Pakistan. We said, no, we can't do this half-hearted. This has to be killed now. Then the question came, what about strike from north? What about strike from east? Navy was ready to block it. Air Force was ready to seal the Bangladesh airspace. One day I was called to the ops room. I found Army Chief, the legendary Sam Manekshaw, sitting. My boss, the DMO, at the lectern, Vice Chief, and DMI sitting on the right. Come in. We were, of course, not privy to any discussions, but all the staff checks were done by us. So DMO says, tell him. I said, what do I say? What you told me in the morning? So I said, sir, at the moment, we can, within 4 weeks' notice, launch one offensive with a limited aim of capturing Jessore and Khulna. So Chief asked, is that the best we can do? I said, no, sir, this is not the best we can do. We can do better if you close the entire country and give me the entire communications. He said, how much will that help you? I said, 3 months. We can go from all 3 directions. He said, that takes me to bloody middle of monsoons. We'll get bogged down. Are you sure this is what your answer is? I said, yes, sir. Have you consulted Eastern Command? I said, yes, sir. He said something very interesting thereafter. He says, I hope you have not spoken to Jakes. Jakes was his chief of staff, General Jacob. I said, no, sir, he is far too senior to me. I spoke to BGS Eastern Command, Brigadier Setna. He says he's a balanced chap. Okay, push off. I was sent off. So that was the scene 1 of Act 1 of this 3-act play. The 71 war was a typical 3-act play. We spent 2-3 months, first act, planning, preparation. Next 3-4 months, build up, movement of troops, mobilization, and finally the execution. This was also the first and the last occasion when the entire country fought this war together. Even politicians were together. Bureaucracy was there. All 3 wings of the government, all organs of the government, diplomacy, everything worked in great synergy. And with the result that the desired results could be actually achieved within the prescribed limitations. 3-4 figures played great role in this. 3 of us obviously were our 3 chiefs, General Field Marshal Manekshaw, Admiral Nanda, and Air Chief Lal. CDS or no CDS, they acted in great unison. Very admirable cooperation between 3 services. And 2-3 civil servants played a great role. P.N. Huxer, D.P. Dhar, Cow. They made sure that whatever the services required was done for them. We were greatly in an advantageous position because of the leadership of our Prime Minister then. I am not a party man. I am not looking at Indira Gandhi as a congressperson. But I, as a soldier at that time, saw her little bit in Delhi and thereafter, was very confident that things are in strong and capable hands. She also went around globe-trotting, created world opinion, as General Mahajan mentioned, agreement with Russia, and then finally, when she came to the conclusion that there is no other option but to go to war, the very, very inspiring address that she gave on 3rd December night. I remember that night very well. There was no TV at that time. All India Radio, we got to know about the airstrikes on services net, but All India Radio only kept on saying that stand by for Prime Minister's address. Prime Minister was out of Delhi. By the time she came, it was I think 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock at night. In my bunker on the borders, we heard that very inspiring speech. That was one very big advantage on our side. She had made sure that Russia, Indo-Russian Friendship Pact neutralized Chinese threat and enabled us to counter the Seventh Fleet menace in the Bangladesh. I was a major when the war started. My promotion was due, and by end of April, I was moved. I was being moved because there was no regiment available in the Corps of Engineers to a very lucrative and peaceful assignment in the MES, equivalent of PWD in the armed forces. I rebelled. I told DMO, I said, sir, I am not going. Either I stay here or I go to war. So 2 days later, I was called to his office. Tell the MS what you want. I said, sir, I want to go to war. Or if I don't want to get war, let me stay here where war is being controlled. Will you give me the adverse career certificate for delay of your promotion? I said, yes, sir, now I give it. Luckily for me, and unfortunately for the then existing CEO of a engineer regiment, which I got command, something happened and he had to compulsorily retire. And I got the appointment. Regiment was located in Lucknow. Right in the very early stages in planning, it was decided to rule out any major offensive in the Western theater. Within 15 days, we said it is not capable, it is not defensible, it is not sustainable. So, on the Western side, 3 things were decided. One is offensive defense, that is, fight war on Pakistan soil. Second, do not allow Pakistan any substantial gains in our part of the land, which will enable them to use that as a bargaining counter at the post hostilities discussions. And thirdly, given to my corps, that is one corps, the task of defending the vital line of communications to J&K. Those days, there was only one road. Railway did not go beyond Pathankot. And from Pathankot also, there was only one road. And that one road went parallel and close to the international border, just about 10 to 12 kilometers. And if that road was cut, entire J&K will be isolated from India. So these were the three tasks given: defend your territory, do local actions across, fight offensive defense, and defend the line of communications to J&K. In the meantime, this delay helped us in creation of Mukti Bahini. Mukti Bahini turned out to be a great force multiplier. Information, guidance, and most importantly, harassment and uh, hurting Pakistan army. They played a very, very great role. There is no doubt about it. We trained them, we equipped them, they guided us in various manner till the end. There were some more intangible factors in our favor. Before that, I think I will complete my side of the story. In Lucknow, in first week of October, we got orders, mobilization orders. As far as I was concerned, my own party, CEO's party, and one company to move by road from Lucknow on 10th October. Just like in the movies, 10th October was a Diwali day. You see the Panchang of 71. But there was no such scene as you see in the movies. My wife, barely in her 30s, not a tear in her eyes. My children, 13-year-old daughter who married a air marshal, she said, "Daddy, go kill the enemy." That is how we left on 10th October. And what was the information to me? Go to Bareilly. We reached Bareilly. Bareilly said, "Acha, aajao, you stay here. Beautiful arrangement. Tomorrow morning you go to Meerut." Went to Meerut. Meerut says, "Now onwards, beyond Saharanpur, go at night." Went at night. Entire countryside was up on the roadside. Then Punjab, that is today's Haryana, up to Ambala, thereafter. And such enthusiasm and support for the armed forces. They won't let us eat our own food. They will not let us sleep anywhere. साहब मंजिल लगाइए, इधर लेट जाइए, खाना खिलाइए. What a morale raising factor it was. The country's support to the armed forces is absolutely total. I was mobilized 4 times in my career: 65, 71, brass tacks, which was no war, in 86, and then in Punjab I was permanently mobilized. Later on, again I am going little out of this thing. When from Trivandrum I was ordered to move without formal declaration of war, they were supposed to give me 62 civil aircraft sorties to move. But because there was no war, no sorties available. So I said, "How do I move?" "Well, you move." I said, "How the bloody hell I move?" They said, "Okay, Southern Railway is under your command." They flew the Deputy General Manager of Southern Railway to Trivandrum. He sat with me. We offloaded civil trains. I'm not, I'm complimenting Malayalis. You know how garrulous they are. We were afraid that they will rebel. Even Karunakaran, the chief minister, said, Brigadier Sahib, what will happen? So I said, sir, that's your problem. I need these vehicles. He says, I suggest you speak to them. I said, okay, you arrange, make this thing. So when I addressed the people and requested them to get down, trains like Kerala Express, everybody got down. No whimper. But they were not leaving the station. I said, why are they not going? They said, sir, they want to shake hands with you and wish you all the best. I said, but there are 3,000. Yeah, this is the people. I said, but there are 3,000. My hand will break. So we lined up 15 senior officers. Everybody shook hands and went away. This is the kind of support that the common man gives to services in war. In 65, I was attending my sister-in-law's wedding, younger sister-in-law, wife's sister. Again, no TV those days. On radio came, servicemen, return back to your units. We don't know where units are, go to the place where you left from. I was going to Dimapur from Wardha, and there were no long distance trains. There was no mobile, there was no, what do you call this? Debit cards and credit cards. I had no money, no tickets. I wore uniform, got in the train, Wardha, Nagpur, Itarsi, Jabalpur, Allahabad, uh, what do you call it, Mughal Sarai, Howrah, Katiyar and all that. Nowhere I had to spend money to eat food. People were saying, "Sir, General Sahab, Major Sahab जा रहे हैं, हमारे साथ खाओ." At Allahabad, train stopped outside. I said, my train is going. So they said, sir, are you prepared to walk? I said, yes, we will carry your baggage. I'm saying all this because how our common man stands by the defense forces. Right. Come back to my road move. Landed in Mirthal. Mirthal was the most lucrative bottleneck on the move to north those days. It was a rail cum road bridge across Satluj. Reached there on 14th. Big scare that Pakistan special troops, special forces are going to launch attack today. By then, our formations from Hyderabad, Sagar, and other places had not yet reached. I was the first senior officer, lieutenant colonel. So I was told, you stop here now. Today you are defending Mirthal Bridge. So a sapper, engineer, first task in war was to defend Mirthal Bridge. But I said, I know troops. My clerk and all that, what do I do? They said, no, there are two companies of the territorial army. They will work under your orders. Okay, I got hold of these company commanders. Whole night went round all over the place. Fortunately for me, Pakistan never attacked. On 15th October, reached Pathankot. 17th onwards, 54 day, 36 day, 16 armored brigades started coming in. And then we deployed ourselves in defense of the highway between Pathankot and Jammu. And by end of October, we were firmly in defensive role. And then we started planning for offensive at a time of choosing, which happened to be 3rd December, into Shakargarh sector, that is opposite us in Punjab. That details I won't cover. I'm sure Cash is going to include what happened after 3rd December. But we were very happy at that time that a very famous citizen of Pune, General Vaidya, as an armored brigade commander, was with us. Now, other intangible which was in our favor is a high morale. Our troops' morale was very, very high. Very, very high. Now, what do you mean by morale? That means a soldier, knowing that there is a imminent and very viable danger to his life and limb, still goes and does his job. Why does he do? People can ask. A young boy who should be playing about, how does he do this kind of brave activity? Simply put, there are two fears to that soldier. One is a physical fear, which is a human this thing that, well, the firing is going on, I can get hurt, I can die. What will happen to my family? And all that natural fears comes. But other fear is that if I fail, what will happen? What will my friends will say? What will happen to my unit? What will happen to my formation? So there are two fears simultaneously: physical fear, moral fear. If the morale is high, you know which fear is higher. Moral fear is higher. You are afraid of failure. You are afraid of letting down your buddies, your unit. And when that situation comes, you can say morale is high. And in 71 war, decidedly the Indian army had very much higher morale than Pakistan army. And apart from the leadership, the faith in your cause, as the details of genocide and and all the other things that Pakistan army did in Bangladesh started trickling in, the men got angrier and angrier. And like that girl wrote, crush India, crush Pakistan feeling had come into the rank and file. And that was a very, very big asset. Very big asset. There is also one more asset I can think of is this Mukti Bahini, already said. Those who fought in Bangladesh, they would know personally. We only know by reading that they did marvelously well. Now, you see, most of us here have one thing in common. I'm talking about the veterans. One is that we have worn the uniform of the nation. It's a great honor. A greater honor is to command our Indian troops in war. And that is the privilege that the Indian Army armed forces have enjoyed in life. When I talked about support of the family, I must mention this without naming anyone. Most of us got very encouraging letters from our homes, and our ladies and our families were very great support for the rank and file. These are intangible factors. You cannot ignore them. Well, what happened from 3rd to 17th, that will be covered. But the last chapter, last act, no, last scene in the last act of the drama, that is ceasefire on 17th, that also I could see. I saw the first scene of first act and first scene of the last act. At 8 o'clock on 17 December, the entire battlefield, which was so dark, suddenly, after it was bright, illuminated with shells and firing, dust and din and noise, suddenly it became very cool, very quiet, quiet of a graveyard. We had lost our night vision because of the bright flashes of the guns. Confused. It took us 5 minutes or thereabout to get the full import of that event. We won the war. And a big cheer went up. And how did we celebrate? No champagne there. Only the mule rum was there. Even the mules don't like to drink that, but we drank that as best champagne. I think wrangling can go on, but the fact is that it was the biggest, most decisive, most historic victory for the Indian Armed Forces, which we hope we don't have to fight so much, but if the fight does come, we will still continue to achieve that kind of results in future too. In the end, I would like to thank, first compliment, MES, governing body chairman, governing body members, CAS director and members for organizing this series, and finally thanking for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to talk to this small audience. I must confess, this is the first time I have spoken to an invisible audience. I hope some people are listening to this, and I hope some young people get motivation from this, that armed forces gives you such a challenging career. Can you imagine Ajit Apte? I don't think he had started sprouting mustache then. Were you? Did you have mustache in few? Instead of chasing girls in Main Street and Deccan Gymkhana, he was looking at the Pakistani major's girlfriend's photograph, but still had big morale. I tell you, at that boy of 20, there were 50 men who were prepared to give their life for him. To achieve that kind of status in life is something you only have to feel, you cannot describe. And what in the services we say, my man, and that man says, my sahab. This symbiotic relationship no other profession can duplicate, let me tell you that. Even today, the man who was with me, my driver calls me कि सर फसल बड़ी चंगी हुई है, बासमती बड़ा अच्छा है, भेज दूं क्या थोड़ा? What a beautiful, and that is what makes the armed forces different. My only hope is that the nation and the politics of the nation does not spoil this. Thank you very much, Sahasrabudya Sahib, and Gokhale Sahib. Lastly, on personal plane, let me tell you, as you grow up in age, stature, service, it becomes little lonely at the top. I can only see Brigadier Jatar, who is my vintage. I was hoping his CO would come, my friend, but he has let me down. I don't think we don't ask the ladies the age, but I can ask the men. I don't think anybody born in 30s is here, excepting Brigadier Jatar. So at 88, even today feel that I am a soldier yet. I may not be active, but I am a soldier. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you, General. And I'm sure your invisible audience must be greatly inspired by your talk. We have reached the end of the program, and I request Dr. Bharat Vankate, Secretary, Maharashtra Education Society, to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, madam. Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to express vote of thanks on this occasion. To start off with, I express my gratitude to Honorable Sri Bhushanji Gokhale sir, who envisioned and who thought of transmitting this treasure to the young men and women of Maharashtra, not only to Maharashtra Education Society, but to the general public at large. And due to his thought process, number of lectures were coming out with, and this is one of the very important curtain raiser what we have witnessed just few moments back. The force behind this all work is architect Rajuji Sahasrabudhe, the chairman of Governing Council Maharashtra Education Society. Due to his support, we are able to execute this function. About this lecture, we have all witnessed that three important lectures, starting with Major General Mahajan sir. Mahajan sir set the tone of this lecture. He also showed us and told us with the PPT how India was getting prepared, how war was getting architected, and how exactly we reached to that particular point. After that, Brigadier Ajit Apte sir took us to the battlefield. He told us number of stories, number of events, the sequence, and what were the major challenges and how they could conquer it. In between, he took us to the Kolkata's party, and in order to keep our momentum on, he offered us number of times hot teas and pakoras. That really, kept us listening more and more along with the story. Thank you very much, sir, for your experiential talk to all of us. In the end, Lieutenant General B.T. Pandit, sir, who talked about three important scenes: the beginning, the preparation, and the surrender. Along with this, he also took us to the entire country, and he told us how exactly the country was supporting to the men in service. He also talked about something emotional part and the hospitality or the help extended by the countrymen to them. I'm also thankful to the veterans present here. Admiral Pasricha sir, Brigadier Jathar sir, our former secretary Professor R.V. Kulkarni sir, Brigadier Sapatnekar sir, and Major Arun Phadke sir, who graced this particular occasion by registering their presence. Number of veterans, students, parents, and Maharashtra education staff are also watching this program online. My thanks are due to them as well. For the preparation of this function, the MES IMCC, MES Bal Shikshan Mandir staff took lot of efforts. IT team of Maharashtra Education Society and auditorium team also did a lot of job. I gave a lot of thanks to all of them who have made this program success. Thank you very much.